All right, how we doing on this Thursday afternoon? What's up, guys? Matt, Leighton, Shawn Battle. Today we're going to be talking about how to write a beast real estate contract. Let's say there's multiple offers. Let's say you just want to get a really good deal. Today, Shawn and I are going to take a look at the best ways to write a killer contract. Shawn, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, man. I'm looking forward to this. I love educating buyers on how they can get their best foot forward and help them out and help them save some money when they're writing up contracts.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of ways to make your contract the best, right?
Yeah.
And there's limitations. Everybody's going to have their limitations, but obviously, the obvious number one thing is the price, right? So what I always say is go to where you feel comfortable paying for this property. But price doesn't always win because there's so many other little things in the contract that can make it stronger or weaker. So first,
let's do 5 things. Let's do 5 things on how to write a beast contract.
5 things. Number one.
Let's do number 1.
Price.
Price.
Right?
All right.
Price. Naturally.
Everyone knows price. We don't need to spend too much time on it.
Yeah, but one thing you want to think about is there's escalation clauses, right? So if you write an escalation clause, how high are you going to make that go? What is going to make you win over that next person? So they're writing their best price too. So how can I beat out this guy right here that's writing?
You might beat me.
It's priced at $1 million, and Matt's going to go to $1,010,000 because he likes even numbers. I like odd numbers. That's what I always say. Go to an odd number. Go to $1,013,000.
Yeah, go to a
something
weird
different,
number.
right? Go to a different number because people aren't thinking in odd numbers; they're thinking even.
Okay.
So that's my one thing on that. But price doesn't always win you the contract. So,
okay, what's maybe an example of something that is not price but could end up winning the contract? One of these other terms.
right. So contingencies. We've all got contingencies in our contract, and we'll go through them, I guess, step by step, right? So the first one is your finance contingency. If you are pre-approved and you're not quite approved, right? So they've got to go through this approval process. You can write a contingency for a certain amount of time. And we can write that number in there. The norm, if you're not competing, the norm that I see or that I write in my contracts is 21 days. So you're contingent for 21 days. But the way that the contract reads is that contingent, what I'm saying is for Virginia only, right? So this is for Virginia contracts. The way that contingency reads is that 21 days, all right, good, right? But that contingency keeps going until it's removed by the lender and buyer.
Yeah.
So you could write whatever in there. So sometimes when writing a strong contract, you could write 5 days in there and know that the buyer's protected in the fact that, all right, 5 days, but it's going to keep going until they remove it. So,
yeah,
I mean,
what if you are competing against another offer, against 2 other offers? What sort of time frame do you make for your contingency?
As short as you can. Talk to your lender and see what they feel comfortable with. But the reality is you're covered. If you put 1 day, you're covered until you remove that contingency. But know that lenders have guidelines that they have to follow, so they can't remove and know that you're fully approved until a certain point. But if you want to win that contract, that's the way you do it. The listing agent can come back and say, hey, I need you to remove this contingency or we're going back on the market. So that's one downfall of that. But if you know you're financially strong, that's the way you're doing it, right?
Cool.
Well, and the number one thing for financing is to not even have a contingency, right? So if you know that you're financially sound, we've gone through this process, you know you can afford it, waive the finance contingency.
What would be the downside there?
What if you're not able to do it?
Yeah.
If you're not able to do it and you don't have that sound financial, advice from your lender that says, hey, you're good to go, then don't do it. I mean, it's not worth losing your money being sued. You could lose your deposit. You could get sued on top of it. It's not worth it. But if you know and you can waive it, right?
So for this one, short finance contingency, what would be another example of a contingency that you can either waive or make shorter?
I think the strongest one is your appraisal contingency, right? So appraisal contingency, in this market that we're dealing with, we're seeing prices go up and up and up. We're in a really competitive market. So appraisal is always the number one thing that we look at to say, all right, these people are paying X amount of dollars, and so is this other person, but this one is waiving that appraisal or waiving a portion of that appraisal. That's what a lot of people don't think of, is you can waive a dollar amount of that appraisal. So I will waive up to $5,000 more than the appraisal.
Yeah.
Right? So things like that, being a little bit smarter on that.
What if you waive the appraisal but keep the finance? And if both of those are 21 days and the appraisal comes back low, can't you just leverage still having the finance contingency? How would that work out?
Well, you have to look at the wording in the contract, and the finance contingency. In certain instances, it would, but yeah, I mean that's a whole different thing.
Yeah. We could do a whole nother video about that. Okay, so writing a strong contract, we have a short finance contingency, short appraisal contingency. What else when you're competing with another offer? I mean, what other things can help you win that property?
So the contingencies are the main thing, aside from price. But home inspection. A lot of home sellers are looking for a waived home inspection. Well, one way to get around that is do a pre-inspection of the property. A lot of people will let you do that, and I've been in houses where there's like 3 inspectors and 3 buyers running through this house because it's that competitive. So you can do a pre-inspection if the seller will let you. That way you go in, you find out everything that's wrong with it. You can either just waive that home inspection contingency and radon, that kind of goes together. You can, if you like what you see, you can waive that inspection. Or you can say, all right, well, I found a significant thing in here that I'm concerned about. You could write that into the contract and waive the home inspection. So there's advantages of doing that pre-home inspection. If it's more like, if it's a condo and you've looked through it and you've looked at the HVAC system, it's a newer Carrier system, you can waive that. I mean, usually what we find in a condo home inspection is like a couple $100 worth of leaky faucets.
Yeah, for condos, so, I mean, if you're competing, you might as well just waive that inspection. The worst thing that comes up is like a $10,000 repair, and at that point, you're probably already negotiating like $10,000 worth of monetary value. So if you want the place for a condo, I would say just waive the home inspection.
The biggest thing in a home inspection for a condo is your HVAC system. So look at the look at the HVAC system when you walk through the property. If it's an old one, maybe be a little leery, but yeah. So finance, appraisal, home inspection, and radon test contingencies. Those are your main ways. So either a low, if it's not hugely competitive, a low time frame for those. The quicker the time frame, the better the contract. Or if they're gone, even better. Right?
What about all right, let's go to another one. What about like writing a letter to a seller? What about, pulling on the old heartstrings,
Yeah, I think it works. It's not going to work every time. I've had clients write letters and they were awesome letters and they lost.
Yeah.
But
money talks.
Every once in a while, you find something that connects with somebody. So for me, like, all right, I'm not born here. I was born in Pittsburgh, right? So when I walk through a house, there's a lot of Steelers fans, right, around the area. So I look for that little thing that I can connect with somebody with. And so is the buyer. So the buyer can write something that might connect with them as well. And that little connection goes a long way. One example, and this goes back to the finance contingency. So there's different types of financing that you can do. There's VA, FHA, and conventional. Conventional is the best. But VA, oddly enough, in this area, I've seen VA contracts win over conventional because the people were military and they felt like they wanted to give their people a chance. And you see that, I've seen that plenty of times. So just because you're doing VA financing, don't count yourself out. I would say point out your strengths. Point out your strengths to that seller and say, we really like your house. Yes, we're doing VA financing, and I've been in the military this long. You know what I mean? Like things like that.
I think if it's a very close, like very competitive situation, a letter can definitely boost it up. It's not going to, I had 3 offers on a property recently. Someone wrote a letter. I was like, I don't care. Like, your offer sucks. Like, we're not going to go with it.
Most of the time it's not going to work. But when it's, people don't understand that these contracts come down to the littlest thing, the slightest little thing, even like a feeling, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you get a feeling and you're like, let's go with this one.
Yeah.
And you make the right choice. So that little feeling could come from the letter.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if in the letter I feel like they might be easier to work with than the other agent or the other parties just being like total jerks about everything.
Yeah,
that could help out as well.
Yeah, and agents, if the agent's being a jerk to me or to my clients or whatever, it's all about a relationship with the people that you're going to go through this journey with. And so, if the agent starts out as a jerk, oh man, it's tough to But really, what we're doing is trying to do the best for our seller and for our buyer. So, yeah, letters work. Do it if you can. If you have some downsides in your financing, point out your positives. Point out your strengths.
Cool. What else we got?
Deposit. So, all right, now we're going into the littler things, right? The smaller things, but deposits matter. The reality is, for a seller to take a deposit, it's really difficult. Yeah. The contract that's written in Virginia that we write is very buyer-sided. It's very buyer-protective. So having a high deposit, for the most part, you're going to be protected in so many ways. So I would say the higher the deposit, the better the contract naturally, and it comes down to that a lot. Just remember that deposit goes into an escrow account. It's cashed within 3 days of the contract. But that money goes towards your closing costs and your down payment. So it's your money that's going to be used later. It's showing good faith. The higher the deposit, the stronger that faith.
Yeah.
But if you back out based on a contingency that you pulled, or back out because you didn't get financing and you pulled the finance contingency, you could lose that money and be sued on top of it. So there's things that you need to know by doing these things. Just know that you want the property. I mean, that's the big thing.
Yeah, so this is the EMD, the earnest money deposit that you're submitting with your offer that shows you're a ready, willing, and able buyer to actually purchase the property. This amount is usually anywhere from 1.5% to 3% of the sales price. And what Shawn is saying, that once you submit that, in Virginia, you have a lot of ways that you can get that back if the contract falls through and you pull out because of HOA docs, you pull out because of the home inspection, you pull out because of the appraisal. It's very difficult for the seller to end up having that money and you end up not having the property. So to make your offer a little more competitive, what we see buyers doing are increasing the size of their earnest money deposit to show that they've got some skin in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I wanted to say there's people watching from Belgium. Kathy Dips here, Kevin LaRue. Good to see you guys watching. Thanks for watching. Peter Bixby.
Nice.
Yeah, so getting down to that deposit, I mean, the more money you can put down, the better off you are. Just know that you could lose it when it comes down to it if you get the cold feet at the end. One thing, going back to contingencies, and a lot of times when you're writing in an HOA or a condo, people think, well, can I just waive that contingency, right? No, you can't. It's law. That contingency cannot be waived. Right. So you're going to have a 3-day contingency to review those HOA docs and condo docs regardless. Important to know. I think we're down to our last thing.
Yeah.
So let's go through it. So price, naturally, number one. Contingencies, finance, appraisal, home inspection, radon. Get them as low as possible on the days. You can't remove an HOA or a condo contingency, so you're going to have that. Your deposit, make it high, as high as you can afford. Write a letter, point out your strengths, point out your family, whatever you want, whatever you can do, whatever connection you can make to that seller, do it.
What about deadlines? Putting a deadline in the contract, like you need to review this in 48 hours. Do people still do that?
I do it all the time, all right? I hate when it's done to me when I'm a listing agent, but I do it all the time on the buy side. I always put an offer forward. If it's Thursday and it just came on the market, I throw a really great offer and I say, you have 24 hours to take this off the market or it's going to expire, right? And a lot of times that gets people to react, and you can really get a good deal prior to it actually a lot of people seeing it.
All right, so if you're on the seller side and that happens and I throw you a contract really good 24 hours in, but you know the open house might be killer,
yeah.
I mean, what are you advising your client?
Yeah, it's tough. You've got to go on what they want. And I go on a feeling as well. So it depends on how many showings I'm getting, how I feel that things are going. And sometimes we just say, all right, there's a deadline. and we put a deadline in when offers are due. I did this last week where we had offers due Monday at 5. If you're telling everybody that you've got Monday at 5 and then you get an offer, you should probably tell everybody that, hey, I got an offer and it's a good one, and you know, be fair to all the agents out there that are interested in this property. But you can kind of get a feeling as a listing agent to see if your property is going to be that hot or not. But if it's one of these offers that are so good, you know, that it's silly not to take it, then sometimes that first offer is your best offer.
So you use deadlines where applicable.
Yeah, I as a buyer's agent, I always try to do that.
Always.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
I mean, if we want it, we're going to go for it and go for it quickly. And if it just so happens that they reject it and then we got to go to the next phase, then that's what we do. I mean, there's plenty of times where I've done that and they didn't take it, and we go and they were right where they get these humongous offers, you know, that you just can't compete with. So going to the humongous beast offer, the last number 5, if you've got it, all cash is going to win most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, so there's times when all cash, you know, here's what I'll say about all cash. A lot of all cash people think, I'm all cash. I can write $5,000 under the price and get it. Cash is the same as a loan in 30 days. $5 grand, 10 grand, I'm taking the 5, 10 grand.
Yeah.
If the other contract is strong. Cash is always king, and I'm always going to counter that cash offer first, right? So if we've got really good, strong offers and that cash offer comes in, well, I'm going to say, all right, well, let's try to get this cash offer to a point where it's even stronger. So cash doesn't always win. If you've got weird contingencies in there, like throwing a home inspection contingency, not that that's weird, and somebody else is waiving it and they're 10 grand higher than you, you know, you've got to weigh those options. There's plenty of times where I've written all cash and I'm like, I got this one, right? No contingencies, all cash, we escalated above. Another cash offer comes in above us. So just because you're cash doesn't mean you're going to win, because there's cash all over the place in here. And honestly, your chances when the cash offer comes in and you've got financing, you're tough to win that most of the time, unless you can find a way that people just don't care. Right?
Yeah, so in that scenario, let's imagine that someone out there is financing when an all-cash offer does come in. I mean, we got to be talking waiving contingencies, and we got to be talking a slightly higher price than the cash offer, because I mean, at the end of the day, the seller, you know, money's money, right? They don't care if it's a mortgage or all cash, but the less contingencies is crucial. So you need to make it so that your finance deal almost looks like an all cash deal because of how little contingencies they are.
And that brings up a point: is your local lenders are coming up with these crazy things now where, you know, one of the lenders now is doing pre-approved, approved and locking in people before they write a contract, locking in a rate before they write a contract. So these local lenders are trying different things out that are able to compete now with the harder cash deals. So find a good lender. We know them. We're friends with them. They have some good programs out there that will help you win contracts. Those local lenders are going to beat out, in my opinion, a big bank lender every time. The local lenders know the market. They know how to compete in this kind of thing. You're not just a number, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So those are our 5 things. Cash is king, but it doesn't always win. You've got to be smart on all of the other things that we've told you. So that's it.
Guys, 5 things on how to write a beast contract that will win you the property. Now it'll win you in spring market. It'll win you literally whenever. So thank you so much for watching. We're here every Thursday at about 1:30 p.m. If we don't see you, have a happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
And we'll see you next time.